What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? The hum of the electric motor was barely audible, a smooth whisper gliding over polished asphalt. The cabin lights cast a soft blue hue across Clara Hayes' face as the Cybercab moved silently through downtown Austin. No steering wheel. No pedals. Just trust. She stared out the window, eyes wide not just with awe but with a flicker of unease. This was the future, and it didn't ask permission. It just arrived. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough, she had said earlier to her camera, trying to keep her voice steady. The interior of the vehicle resembled a tech lounge more than a car. Minimalist elegance, glowing surfaces, and a soft hum of atmospheric music that responded to her heartbeat. Her mind raced faster than the car, looping through every scenario her cautious instincts could imagine. Could it stop in time for a pedestrian? Could it handle a blown tire? Could it read subtle cues that a human driver just knew? It wasn't just her job riding on this. Her credibility, her future, her sense of control, all were seated in the passenger seat of this AI-driven box of glass and steel. And no one was driving. Moments earlier, Clara had stood beneath a massive Tesla banner fluttering above the new downtown facility. The sky was a crisp Texas blue, unmarred by clouds. The kind of day that made you feel optimistic. Maybe even bold. She had been invited personally by the PR head at Tesla after her investigative series on electric vehicle ethics went viral. They didn't want another exposé. They wanted Clara to witness, experience, and, hopefully, believe. She was ushered through security, past a wall of press badges, and handed a sleek white key card the size of a credit card. "This is your access pass," the assistant had told her, her smile practiced. "And your ignition." That word, ignition, seemed almost quaint. Inside, the media center buzzed with excitement. The reveal had just wrapped. A dozen influencers were still live streaming, and Elon Musk had left the stage only minutes earlier after declaring, "The age of driving is officially over." Clara hadn't clapped. She couldn't. She was too busy thinking about her mother. And her mother's car. The red Ford Fusion that never made it through the intersection one rainy night in Akron. She could still smell the wet upholstery, still hear the ambulance sirens, still remember the way the steering wheel looked twisted against the windshield. Her mother had survived, but something in Clara hadn't. It's why she became a journalist. It's why she had to understand what autonomy meant, not just for transportation, but for grief. For guilt. For letting go. As the Cybercab pulled away from the Tesla test facility and into the real streets, the glass around her gently darkened, shielding her from the afternoon sun. A calm, feminine voice said, "Good afternoon, Clara. Destination set. Estimated arrival in 18 minutes. No override?" she asked out loud, testing. "Manual override is disabled in demo mode," the voice replied. "Would you like music, or silence?" "Silence," Clara murmured. Her phone buzzed in her lap. Mark. Her fiancé. A mechanical engineer who loved old things. Vinyl records. Manual transmissions. He had supported her coming here but didn't hide his skepticism. "Cars without steering wheels," he had said last night on the phone. "That's not autonomy. That's surrender." She hadn't argued. Not then. But she felt it now. That sense of giving up the reins. Not just of a vehicle, but of responsibility. She leaned back and tried to observe. The Cybercab slowed at crosswalks even when there was no one there. It anticipated lane changes before the need was visible to human eyes. It whispered past city buses and cyclists like a ghost that could see the future. Impressive. Terrifying. Beautiful. Then it happened. Just past 6th Street, the Cybercab began to veer, not dangerously, not wildly, but noticeably. A gentle drift, like a boat caught in an unseen current. Clara's eyes narrowed. System, confirm routing. No response. The screen on the seatback flickered once. Her stomach tightened. System, she said again, louder this time. The calm voice didn't return. The vehicle still moved. Still followed traffic laws. But something had changed. Clara reached for her phone and hit record. The journalist in her kicked in. Okay, it's 3:42 p.m., she said into the lens. I'm inside the Tesla Cybercab demo vehicle, and there's a malfunction in the interface. The system isn't responding to voice commands. We're still in motion, speed appears normal, but I can't verify the destination. This may be a software lag or a sensor issue. She kept her voice level. No panic. But inside, the scream started rising. This was her nightmare, no control, no recourse, and nothing but trust. Trust in algorithms. In sensors. In promises made on a stage. Her mind looped back to the reveal speech, this vehicle is safer than any human driver in history. Safer, yes, but perfect. She reached for the emergency call button embedded discreetly beneath the seat edge. It lit up green. No operator. A message appeared on the screen, please wait. System recalibrating. Recalibrating, she repeated under her breath. Then, as if nothing had happened, the vehicle slowed to a gentle halt at a red light. The interface restored. The voice returned. Apologies for the interruption, Clara. System recalibrated successfully. Continuing route. She exhaled but didn't relax. What caused the interruption, she asked. Sensor delay due to environmental variance. No danger present. Define environmental variance, she demanded. Dust, heat distortion, and pedestrian proximity caused latency in path prediction model. It was speaking like a machine again. Comforting in a way. Terrifying in another. She reached for her phone and stopped recording. She had enough for a headline already. But was it the right story? Outside, the Texas afternoon moved on. A couple laughed on scooters. A father carried a toddler on his shoulders. The world kept trusting. Or maybe it had just stopped paying attention. As the Cybercab pulled up to her designated endpoint, a pop-up Tesla lounge on the edge of Lady Bird Lake, Clara stepped out slowly. She touched the side of the vehicle with her fingertips, like checking if it was real. It was. She turned to the camera one more time. This was not the future I imagined, she said quietly. It's smoother. Smarter. And somehow scarier. I don't know if we're giving up too much, or gaining something we've never had before. But I'll tell you this, once you've been inside, it changes you. She looked directly into the lens. The question isn't whether we're ready for cars without drivers. The question is, are we ready to let go of control at all? Behind her, the Cybercab glided away, silent as a secret. The sound of a rainstorm was the first thing Clara remembered about that night. Not the screech of tires, not the shattering glass, not the sirens. Just rain, thick and endless, pouring down on the windshield like the world was trying to wash itself clean. She had been 9 years old, curled in the back seat with her Walkman headphones on, when her mother's Ford Fusion slid through a blinking yellow light and into the path of a speeding delivery van. Everything after that was noise. Metal, shouts, chaos, but the rain had been there first. She hadn't thought about that night in years, not until the Cybercab started drifting off its intended path. And now it came back in high definition, like her mind had saved it in 4K. Her mother had survived with a broken leg and a concussion. Clara hadn't been injured physically, but something had shifted inside her that night, something no doctor could scan or name. She became obsessed with cause and effect, with understanding how things went wrong. She began asking questions that made her teachers uncomfortable. Why didn't the light change faster? Why did the van run the light? Why didn't the car stop sooner? Why did it happen at all? That questioning mind stayed with her. At first, it was exhausting to adults around her. Later, it became her strength. By the time she graduated from Ohio State with a journalism degree and 3 local awards under her belt, she was already a rising name in investigative reporting. But she didn't cover crime or corruption like others in her field. Clara focused on systems, automated payrolls that shortchanged workers, public transit networks that punished low-income neighborhoods, and self-driving vehicles that promised to fix what humans broke. That's how she met Mark. He was working on a research team developing haptic steering feedback systems. Ironic, she thought now, since they were rapidly becoming obsolete. She had interviewed him for a story on how driver assistance tools could help people with physical disabilities. He was kind, intelligent, and skeptical of big tech promises. She liked that. They had dinner that night. For years later, they were still figuring out how 2 people with very different fears could build one life. Mark feared a world run by code. Clara feared a world where people kept dying behind the wheel. She remembered the first time she told him about her mother's crash. It had been raining, appropriately. They were in his apartment watching a documentary about smart highways. My mom hit the brakes, but it was too late, she had said, her voice quiet. The guy in the van was texting. No charges were filed. It was ruled an accident. Mark had just nodded. I'm sorry. That must have changed everything. It did. She hadn't said more. She didn't need to. Mark didn't ask many follow-up questions, and that's what made her feel safe with him. He let her lead the story. But when she told him about Tesla's invitation to cover the Cybercab reveal, he had hesitated. You sure you want to be their mouthpiece? He asked. I'm not, she said. But I want to see it with my own eyes. I want to see if it's real. If it's ready. Or if it's just branding, he replied. All of this might be theater, Clara. All of it is theater, she said, half smiling. That's why I'm bringing a camera. The night before her trip, they had sat at the kitchen table in their shared apartment, passing a bottle of wine back and forth. What's the one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? She had asked him. He thought for a long time. You, he finally said. She didn't know what to say to that. So she kissed him. That was 2 nights ago. Now, sitting in her hotel room with the soft hum of Austin traffic outside, Clara watched the footage from her Cybercab ride on her laptop. She zoomed in on the flicker in the display screen. Slowed down the moment the system stopped responding. Analyzed the error message. Sensor delay due to environmental variance, the system had claimed. Was that a one-time hiccup, or a warning? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She had a story, no question. A viral-ready narrative, bold new future marred by dangerous glitch. But was that the truth, or just the easy version? She needed context. She needed history. She needed someone inside. That's when she called Jamal. Dr. Jamal Reed was Tesla's AI and sensor integration lead, a former MIT researcher known for his dry wit and his radical transparency. She had interviewed him a year earlier about ethical programming in autonomous vehicles. They had bonded over their mutual disdain for PR-sanitized tech launches. He picked up on the second ring. Clara Hayes, he said, voice crackling slightly. If you're calling me the day after a reveal, it's either a compliment or a complaint. It's both, she said. I need to ask you something off the record. Define off the record. I won't quote you. I just want to understand something. He sighed, but she could hear him smile. Shoot. She described the drift, the glitch, the response. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, what you experienced was probably a latency stack overflow, too much sensory data entering the decision module at once. The system held rather than act rashly. So it paused, she said. Because it didn't want to make a mistake. Exactly. You want that pause. That pause is the difference between an overconfident AI and a safe one. Why didn't it tell me that in real time, she asked. Because the communications protocol is still catching up to the processor. We're building intuition. That's hard to explain in code. But people are going to need that explanation, she said. Or they won't trust it. That's where people like you come in, Jamal replied. Bridge the gap. What about the emergency call button? It connected to nothing. That shouldn't happen, he admitted. I'll escalate that. She believed him. Jamal was one of the few people in tech she trusted to be human before corporate. Why'd you get into this? She asked, surprising herself. He didn't answer right away. My younger brother died in a DUI crash, he said finally. 3 years ago. I was already working on AV tech, but after that. I couldn't not do it. It stopped being theoretical. Clara felt her throat tighten. She hadn't expected that. I'm sorry, she said. Don't be. Just keep asking the hard questions. When she hung up, she sat still for a long time. Her story had more depth than she thought. This wasn't about glitches and press demos. It was about trust. About loss. About the people behind the code, and the ones hoping it'll save their lives. She opened a new document on her laptop. Titled it, When the Car Drives You, a Reporter's Ride into the Future of Trust. She began typing. Not as a takedown, not as a puff piece, but as a record of something new. Something still forming. She would tell the truth, all of it. And she would start here, with the rain, the silence, and the long road toward letting go. The sun blazed down on the Tesla campus in Austin, casting long shadows across the smooth concrete and gleaming panels of solar arrays. Clara adjusted her lanyard as she passed security for the second day in a row, her press badge swinging against her chest. There was a different energy this morning, tenser, more focused. Yesterday had been all about the reveal, the media circus, the drama of Elon Musk standing center stage and declaring the death of manual driving. Today felt like the hangover after a party where no one wanted to admit they drank too much optimism. Clara's email pinged with a new message from Tesla's media coordinator, brief, polite, and insistent. The press would be granted access to a deeper technical briefing at 10 a.m. Sharp, no questions allowed during the first 20 minutes, and all recording devices had to be cleared in advance. Standard procedure, maybe. But Clara had covered enough tech unveilings to recognize damage control when she saw it. She stepped into the main glass tower that overlooked the prototype garage and was directed to a conference hall buzzing with conversation. PR reps in polished suits handed out branded notebooks, as if a Tesla logo on recycled paper could make a glitch disappear. Clara spotted Jamal across the room, deep in discussion with 2 senior engineers. He caught her eye for just a second and nodded. Not much, but enough. She slid into a seat toward the front, between a journalist from The Verge and a camera operator from CNN. As the presentation began, a giant screen lit up with bold text, the Cybercab Neuro-Logic Stack, Redundancy, Reasoning, and Risk Management. Clara almost laughed. This was classic Tesla. Overcomplicate everything to make it sound cutting edge. But the content was no joke. The lead systems engineer explained how Cybercab's decision-making relied on a tiered logic stack, integrating data from 16 LiDAR sensors, 12 cameras, and multiple radar and ultrasonic inputs. We are not simulating human thinking, he said. We are eliminating human error through probabilistic path prediction. It was impressive. And terrifying. Clara imagined an invisible world layered over reality, where every object was a variable, every motion a threat vector. She thought about her ride yesterday, the hesitation, the silent recalibration. Was that the system acting cautiously, or was it simply overwhelmed? When the Q&A finally opened, Clara stood first. What happens when multiple layers in the logic stack produce conflicting responses? She asked, her voice steady. The engineer smiled tightly. That's where arbitration protocols determine the safest, most stable choice. We've built-in tolerances for conflict. But I experienced a system freeze yesterday, Clara pressed. Real-world latency. Emergency override didn't connect. Is that within your tolerance range? There was a pause. A brief one. Enough to make the room feel suddenly warmer. We're actively debugging post-launch variances, the engineer replied. Thank you for your question. Clara sat down, but the buzz around her said what no one could, she had hit a nerve. After the session, Jamal approached her in the hallway. Nice one, he said, voice low. That override issue is going to haunt my department for a while. Good, Clara said. It should. He raised an eyebrow. You're enjoying this. I'm not, she replied. But if you're going to change the world, you'd better be ready to explain every bump in the road. They walked together through a corridor lined with early Tesla prototypes, some sleek, others laughably clunky. It was like a museum of ambition. I want to show you something, Jamal said, motioning toward a side door marked restricted access. She hesitated. Off the record? Always, he said. The door opened into a cool, dark testing bay. At the center was a stripped-down Cybercab chassis, wires exposed, panels removed. Surrounding it were racks of screens displaying live data feeds, driving simulations, object recognition tests, neural net overlays. This is where the real work happens, Jamal said. Not on the stage. Not in marketing videos. Here. Clara moved closer, mesmerized by the screens. On one of them, a simulated cybercab approached a busy intersection. Pedestrians moved unpredictably. A cyclist swerved without signaling. A delivery drone dropped altitude suddenly. The car navigated it all, but only after pausing for 2.7 seconds at a decision node. This is the hesitation, Clara said quietly. This is what I felt. Yep, Jamal said. We call it a logic stall. Happens when variables stack too fast for the net to assign confidence to a path. Better to pause than act aggressively. But people won't understand that pause, Clara said. They'll call it a glitch. Because they want perfect, Jamal said. But safety isn't perfect. It's patient. Clara watched another simulation run. This time, a child ran into the street chasing a ball. The cybercab stopped instantly. No hesitation. It learns from risk-weight, Jamal explained. Children rank highest. Then disabled individuals. Then cyclists, pets, construction workers, and so on. The more vulnerable, the faster the car reacts. You've programmed empathy, Clara said. Statistical empathy, Jamal corrected. It's still numbers. But we try to make those numbers human. For a moment, she forgot her assignment. She was just a woman watching a machine try to understand a chaotic world. She thought of her mother again. Of how a single second had changed everything. What would have happened if my mom had been in a cybercab, she asked suddenly. Jamal didn't flinch. We can't promise zero accidents. But the odds are significantly better. And you wouldn't have grown up asking why the world didn't do more. Clara looked at him, surprised by the weight of his words. You believe in this, she said. I have to, he replied. Because if we wait until it's perfect, more people die. Clara's phone buzzed. A text from Mark. Hey. Just saw your clip on Twitter. It's blowing up. You okay? She replied quickly. I'm okay. It's complicated. His response came seconds later. Of course it is. It always is with you. She stared at that message, unsure what to make of it. Jamal noticed her shift. Trouble back home? Maybe, she said. He thinks this is all too fast. That we're racing into something we don't understand. He's not wrong, Jamal said. But we don't have the luxury of waiting. Clara pocketed her phone. I need to go right. Write it right, Jamal said. Tell the truth. Not just what people want to hear. As she stepped out into the sunlight, her head spun. She had seen the code. She had seen the flaws. She had seen the future trying to become the present, even if it stumbled. But she also felt the weight of public trust pressing down on her. People would believe what she wrote. That belief had power. That power had consequence. And consequences didn't always come with breaks. The road ahead was smooth, but Clara felt the edges of it curling like old film as she boarded the outbound test vehicle for her assigned Deep City Loop ride, a real-world simulation through Austin's urban core, complete with unpredictable traffic, construction detours, and live pedestrian environments. This wasn't a stage-managed trip. This was the challenge that would either sell the Cybercab to the world or bury it in scrutiny. The sun was beginning to lean westward, casting long golden streaks down the boulevard. The Cybercab she entered was identical to the first, sleek, pod-like, wrapped in carbon ceramic silence, but this time, it was marked with a red stripe along the rear window, Test Mode 3CA, not for public use. Clara scanned the interior. No operator. No controls. No wheel. No pedal. No, in case of emergency, button anymore either. Jamal had told her earlier they were testing updated emergency interface integration but hadn't rolled it into every car. She was, once again, completely a passenger. A quiet click signaled the beginning of the route. The car began to pull away from the Tesla testing facility and merged onto the open road with the calm precision of a surgeon's scalpel. Route confirmed, the cabin voice announced. Estimated time to completion, 36 minutes. Clara took a breath and opened her camera app, not to record but to make herself feel more in control. A digital notebook. A way to observe instead of feel. The city unfolded before her through the car's massive panoramic glass. The ride was absurdly smooth, more like gliding than driving. Potholes were anticipated and avoided with subtle shifts. Lane merges happened without warning to her, but somehow never startled the drivers around them. It was ballet choreography designed by code. The Cybercab slowed for a group of high schoolers crossing without a light. A few of them turned, surprised at the vehicle's silence. One waved uncertainly, like testing if it saw them. The car pulsed soft interior lights in response, almost like a nod. Clara noted that. Human feedback simulation. Eye contact replaced by environmental light cues. Interesting. She passed the intersection where the glitch had occurred yesterday and instinctively braced, but nothing happened. The cab handled the turn like it had done it 1,000 times. Maybe it had. Maybe 1,000 identical simulations were running in the background of Tesla's network, replaying her glitch until it could be rewritten from memory. She wondered how long it would take before the system forgot she ever had an issue. How do you store failure? She asked aloud. The system replied, failure events are logged, categorized by risk level, and used in neural net retraining across the fleet. Local data is anonymized and aggregated for system-wide improvements. So every mistake makes the system smarter. Correct. Iterative resilience is our primary safety objective. Clara stared at the seat across from her, pretending someone sat there. Maybe Mark. Maybe her younger self. Someone skeptical. Someone curious. But mistakes still happen, right? She asked. Risk can only be minimized, not eliminated, the voice said. Human risk in personal vehicles results in approximately 3,700 deaths daily worldwide. Projected Cybercab mortality rate is 96.2% lower at scale. You sound confident, she said. Confidence is a function of accumulated data. The voice had no emotion, and yet it made her feel something. A chill. A calm. A strange mix. The cybercab turned onto South Congress Avenue. Traffic thickened. Pedestrians flowed across intersections in waves. A delivery truck pulled out suddenly. Clara tensed. The cybercab didn't honk. It didn't swerve. It waited. The truck passed, and it continued like nothing had happened. She remembered something Jamal had said, "We don't build machines to react like humans. We build them to behave better than humans." And here it was, behaving better. But better didn't mean perfect. Perfection was a myth humans told themselves to justify fear. Clara's phone buzzed. Another message from Mark. "Just watched your interview on CNBC. You look good on camera. Tired, though." She replied. "Didn't sleep much. Too many questions in my head." "That's what I love about you," he wrote back. "But also what scares me." She paused, then typed. "Scares you how?" No reply. She stared out the window again. South Congress gave way to Riverside, then toward the edge of the city's industrial zone. Here, the cybercab hit construction. Lanes closed, cones stacked like miniature tombstones, signs blinking with ambiguous arrows. Human drivers slowed down, merged awkwardly, some cut others off. The cybercab paused at a merge point. It scanned. Clara saw the LiDAR pulse on a hidden screen mounted in the corner of the ceiling. The system waited. Calculated. It edged forward, slowly, assertively. One car honked. The cybercab backed off. Waited again. Another opportunity. It moved. Successfully. Clara found herself whispering, "Good." Then she laughed, surprised she'd said it aloud. She was rooting for it. That scared her more than the ride itself. The car didn't need her trust. But she needed something to believe in. At the 30-minute mark, the sky shifted as evening slid into early dusk. Neon signs blinked on. Buses hissed at stops. The city grew denser, noisier. The cybercab stayed composed. They turned onto a narrow residential street to simulate a neighborhood drop-off. That's when it happened. A dog, off-leash, darted into the road from between two parked cars. Clara gasped. Time slowed. The cybercab slammed the brakes, not jolting, but fast. The dog froze. Looked back. Then sprinted off. No impact. No injury. Just an instant where the line between tragedy and calculation vanished. Clara's hands were clenched into fists. She released them slowly. "That was good," she whispered. "That was really, really good." The voice returned. Collision avoided. Emergency stop executed within optimal parameters. "No kidding," Clara muttered. Her heartbeat began to return to normal. As the car completed its loop and pulled up to the Tesla lounge again, Clara stepped out onto the sidewalk feeling like she had just exited a meditation chamber, or maybe a high-speed therapy session. She didn't know how to feel, only that she had felt everything. Fear. Awe. Doubt. Relief. Hope. She recorded a quick voice memo. Second test ride complete. 36 minutes, urban environment, one unplanned emergency event successfully resolved. System behavior was not flawless, but it was human-safe. The hesitation at construction zones shows a preference for de-escalation over assertiveness. The dog incident confirms rapid response reflexes. I still don't trust it. But I respect it. She ended the recording and stared at her reflection in the glass of the Tesla lounge. A stranger looked back, someone both thrilled and unnerved, someone in the middle of a story with no clear ending. Clara, someone called. It was a Tesla comms rep waving her toward a waiting area. Elon's in the building. Small group Q&A for select press. You're on the list if you want in. Clara didn't move right away. Elon Musk. The architect. The symbol. The provocateur. Was she ready to ask him what needed to be asked? She glanced back once at the Cybercab as it pulled silently into its next run. Then she turned and walked toward the door. The room wasn't grand, not in the way Clara expected it to be. No stage, no mic stands, no velvet chairs or teleprompters. Just a sleek matte black conference table surrounded by 9 seats, one of which was already occupied by Elon Musk. He sat with a casual air, wearing a plain black t-shirt and jeans, one foot resting across his knee. To his left sat a thin laptop, the Tesla logo glowing faintly. His phone was face down beside it, vibrating silently every few seconds, ignored. Clara stepped in, greeted quickly by a staffer who offered coffee, declined, and then waved her toward an empty chair across from the man himself. 3 other journalists joined them, one from Bloomberg, another from Wired, and someone Clara didn't recognize but who looked young enough to still be in grad school. Clara Hayes, Elon said as she Saturday, I liked your documentary on Waymo. Especially how it pissed off Waymo. There was a dry smile at the edge of his face. Clara gave a polite nod. I didn't intend to piss anyone off. Even better, he replied. Means it was honest. The staffer closed the door, and just like that, it was silent. Elon leaned forward. I know the Cybercab scares people. It should. That's how you know it's real. Clara didn't flinch. It scared me. Good, he said again. You were in 3C yesterday, right? I saw the sensor stack report. It paused, she said. No response. No override. You call that real? I call that maturity, Elon said. The system knew it didn't know what to do. That makes it smarter than most people behind the wheel. But the interface didn't tell me what was happening, she pressed. You've removed human control but haven't fully replaced human communication. That's a problem. Elon nodded slowly. You're not wrong. And we're working on that. But we're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for progress. People don't want progress when their safety is in question, the Bloomberg reporter chimed in. They want certainty. They want illusion, Elon countered. You know what the most dangerous kind of driver is? The one who thinks they're in control. That's where accidents come from. Overconfidence. Impulse. Drunk driving. Distraction. Texting. Rage. All very human. But trust isn't something you upload, Clara said. It's earned. 1 mile at a time. Exactly, Elon replied. And this is mile 0. The room fell quiet for a moment. Outside the glass walls, the golden Texas light streamed across the polished floors, and the faint hum of other cybercabs returning to base could be heard if you listened hard enough. Elon tapped a few keys on his laptop and turned the screen toward them. This is a real-time feed from 4 different cybercabs on city routes right now, he said. Each one is making 500 decisions a minute. That's 30,000 decisions every hour. And every single one is being logged, ranked, and integrated into the master net. The screen showed visuals from the cars' perspectives, intersections, strollers, joggers, unexpected parked vehicles, delivery robots. Most of the public thinks it's just sensors and code, Elon continued. But it's more like a digital nervous system. A brain. It learns from every other brain. You saw the glitch yesterday. And the next 9,000 cars will learn from your moment of hesitation. Clara stared at the feed. But people aren't comfortable being test cases, she said. Especially not when the stakes are life and death. We're all test cases, Elon said. Every time we get in a car, every time we cross a street. The only difference now is the system admits it. It learns. It gets better. Humans don't always do that. The Wired reporter leaned in. So what happens when the first fatality occurs in a cybercab? Elon didn't hesitate. It will happen. That's inevitable. And when it does, people will scream that the system failed. But the truth is, humans fail every minute of every day. The numbers don't lie. Machines are already safer. We just hate when machines make mistakes because we expect them to be perfect. Clara's chest tightened slightly. She had spent the last 3 days analyzing a system that both awed and unnerved her. She'd seen it save a dog. She'd seen it hesitate at danger. She'd seen it succeed and stall. She had come into this as a skeptic. But she wasn't sure that label fit anymore. "You're not afraid of backlash?" she asked. "Of course I am," Elon said. "But I'm more afraid of inertia. We've had over a century of traffic deaths. We act like that's normal. Like 40,000 Americans dying every year in cars is the price of mobility. I think that's insane. The real risk is doing nothing." "You're asking for a lot of trust," Clara said. "More than most people are ready to give." Elon smiled faintly. "That's why we're not asking. We're building." The room fell quiet again. Then, to everyone's surprise, he stood up. "We're done here," he said. "Unless someone wants a ride in the Alpha 9. Clara's ears perked up. Alpha 9. Experimental prototype. Next-gen logic stack. You'll like it. Clara, come on. You're already halfway in." Without waiting for a reply, he walked out of the room. Clara glanced at the other reporters, then back at her notes. Then she stood and followed him. They walked across the Tesla test lot in near silence. The air was cooling now. A soft breeze kicked up dust across the pavement. Elon stopped beside a matte silver cybercab unlike any Clara had seen. It was sleeker, lower, its curves more organic, like something grown rather than built. "Meet Alpha 9, Elon said. "It doesn't just respond. It anticipates. It doesn't just follow rules. It adapts. We're trying to build intuition." "You can't code intuition," Clara said. "Maybe not," Elon said. "But you can simulate it. And maybe that's enough." He opened the door. "It's just a short ride. No press. No public. Just you, me, and the machine." Clara hesitated. Then she climbed inside. The door closed behind her with a whisper. Elon sat opposite her. The interior was different, simpler. No glowing dashboards. No menus. Just light and silence. The vehicle began to move. No command. No announcement. It just started. Clara's heart thudded in her chest. She looked at Elon. "You didn't set a destination." "It already knows," he said. And somehow, she believed him. The Alpha 9 slipped through the evening cityscape like a thought forming before it had words. It made no noise except the barely perceptible hum of its electric motor, and even that was swallowed by the drone of distant traffic and the whisper of wind against glass. Clara sat across from Elon Musk in the low-lit pod, her hands resting on her thighs, fingers twitching with questions she wasn't yet sure how to ask. She could feel the subtle differences in this prototype's behavior immediately. It didn't just react, it flowed. Every turn, every acceleration, every deceleration was not only efficient but elegant. It felt less like a car and more like a partner, a kind of unspoken collaboration between movement and intention. Elon said nothing for the first few minutes. He just watched the city blur past, his gaze distant, almost bored. Clara knew better. This was how he worked, quiet when the wheels were turning fast. She broke the silence first. Where are we going? We're letting it decide, he said. I gave it an open query. Take us somewhere significant, based on the passenger's data. Her eyes widened slightly. You let it read me? You opted into the neural overlay test when you accepted the press invite. It was in the terms. She swallowed. Of course it was. She should have read closer. So it knows where I've been, what I've searched, what I write. It knows what you care about, Elon said. That's what we trained it on. Relevance over randomness. That's the new logic stack. She looked out the window again. They weren't heading downtown. They were moving east now, toward the older part of the city, past warehouses and gentrified lofts, toward neighborhoods that still bore the scars of uneven development. This isn't a scenic route, Clara said. No, Elon replied. It's a meaningful one. The Alpha 9 slowed as they passed a public park where a group of teenagers played soccer under flickering lights. A mother pushed a stroller nearby, and a man dug through a recycling bin. The pod glided past them like a ghost. We've been training the Alpha series to interpret context, Elon said. Not just to recognize obstacles, but to understand value. A child on a sidewalk isn't just an object to avoid, it's a life to prioritize. A man with unstable movement isn't just random motion, it might mean he's impaired, distracted, vulnerable. We want this system to see like a human, but make decisions like something better than human. Clara absorbed his words, but a darker question pushed forward. You keep saying, better. But who defines what's better? You. The engineers? A team in Palo Alto? The network defines it, Elon said. Aggregated data. Weighted by outcomes. We feed it every possible version of an event and let it evolve the logic. We don't command. We teach. But teaching requires ethics, Clara said. So who's teaching it what matters? You are, he replied, surprising her. Everyone is. Every time someone walks, drives, hits the brakes, accelerates, causes a crash or avoids one, that becomes part of the collective lesson. The fleet doesn't just learn from Tesla data. It's trained on decades of global driving behavior, filtered through a risk lens. The more human stories we feed it, the more it understands how not to be like us. Clara blinked slowly. You make it sound like a moral organism. It kind of is, Elon said. But it's one we get to shape. At least for now. The vehicle curved onto a smaller road, the pavement cracked, streetlights intermittent. Clara recognized the area now. It was near the housing project where she'd once filmed a documentary about transit deserts, places where public transportation was so limited that residents spent hours commuting just a few miles. She hadn't been back in years. The Alpha 9 pulled up and stopped outside a community center with boarded windows and graffiti-splashed walls. Elon looked at her. This is where your IP address geotagged several photos in your archive. Back in 2019. You interviewed people here. Yes, she said slowly. It was a story about economic isolation. One woman told me she walked 3 miles every morning to get to the nearest bus. And that shaped your view on autonomous vehicles, Elon said. You saw them as a way to fix something broken. Until I realized most AVs are being designed for people who'll never need to walk 3 miles for anything, she replied. Private fleets. Luxury services. Automation for the already mobile. Elon nodded. That's why we're launching Cybercab as a subscription-free service in select zones. We're piloting it here first, this neighborhood. Free rides. 24/7. Full integration with public transport nodes. Clara looked at him, surprised. You're giving it away. To start, yes. We need real data from real places. Not just sanitized streets and tech-forward cities. The machine doesn't learn from perfection. It learns from friction. She leaned forward. So this is the first city where the future touches the ground. Exactly, Elon said. But only if we tell that story right. The vehicle began moving again, circling back toward downtown. The mood shifted. Glass towers loomed. Neon buzzed. A different city, shinier, louder, less patient. Clara turned back to him. What about the people who still won't trust it? The ones who'll say you're using them to beta test your legacy? Elon looked tired suddenly. They're not wrong either. Every innovation is a beta test of something. I won't pretend this is altruistic. We're a company. We're making a product. But if the byproduct is fewer accidents, fewer dead kids, fewer last calls ending in body bags, then I can live with the PR flack. What about the first death? She asked again. You said it's inevitable. It is, he said. But so is the next 10,000 if we don't do this. The Alpha 9 pulled to a stop outside the Tesla lounge. The ride was over. The doors hissed open. Elon didn't move. This thing we're building, he said quietly, it's not just a car. It's a decision engine. And it's only as moral as the world we show it. Clara stepped out into the night, the city humming all around her, the questions in her mind no quieter than when she got in. But now they had shape. Direction. Tension. She looked back once as the Alpha 9 disappeared into the traffic, flashing no lights, making no sound, just vanishing like it was never there. Then she turned on her recorder and began to speak, not as a journalist documenting a trend, but as a witness to something undeniable. The future wasn't waiting. It was already driving. Clara didn't sleep that night. She lay awake in her hotel room, the lights of downtown Austin flickering beyond the curtains, her laptop screen glowing faintly beside her as she reread her notes over and over again. The words blurred, but the emotions behind them remained sharp. There was something about the ride in the Alpha 9 that unsettled her, not because of fear, but because of how safe she had felt. Too safe, maybe. Like something else was doing all the work while she just existed. Her mind kept circling the same question: what happens when we trust the machine more than we trust ourselves? She was trained to chase truth, to expose what others tried to hide. But the truth here wasn't corruption or cover-up, it was acceleration. The world was moving forward whether people were ready or not. Her inbox was flooded. Dozens of newsrooms wanted quotes. Producers wanted her on their shows. Readers were debating her first-hand accounts on Twitter, TikTok, and whatever version of Reddit still survived the latest algorithm shifts. One comment kept echoing in her head: this isn't about cars. It's about control. That stuck. Around 4:30 a.m., she gave up on sleep entirely and pulled on jeans and a hoodie. She needed fresh air, movement, anything to clear her head. The hotel lobby was silent except for the low murmur of a night clerk scrolling through a tablet. Outside, the city streets were mostly empty, save for the quiet whoosh of automated cleaning drones and the occasional late-shift worker. She walked for blocks, no destination in mind, until she realized her feet had taken her back to Tesla's downtown test loop. She stood near one of the official Cybercab pickup points, lit softly in blue. A pod approached silently and came to a perfect stop before her. The cabin light pulsed once, sensing her presence. No driver. No commands. Just invitation. She hesitated. Then she stepped inside. "Welcome, Clara," the voice said. "Would you like to begin a route?" "No route," she said. "Just drive." The Cybercab pulled away, merging smoothly onto the empty road, and Clara let herself sink back into the seat. The silence wasn't oppressive, it was meditative. Her mind wandered. She thought about her mother again. That accident had been the fulcrum of her life. A drunk driver, one red light, and a lifetime of absence. Her father had done his best to raise her, but nothing filled the space left behind. She wondered what kind of world it would have been if the driver had been a machine. No alcohol. No rage. Just logic. Would her mother still be alive? Would she be a different person? Stronger. Softer. More trusting. The car made a smooth right onto Congress. As they passed a row of silent storefronts, she noticed another cybercab ahead, identical on the outside but different in something she couldn't name. It pulled to the curb and released a passenger, a woman with a baby strapped to her chest. Clara watched as the pod pulsed its lights gently, then rolled off into the darkness. That moment stuck with her, the simplicity of it. Transportation without friction. No cost, no stress, no risk of judgment or danger. The kind of movement that felt like a right instead of a privilege. System, she said softly, how many rides have you completed tonight? Since midnight, 3,216 successful cybercab rides in the Austin area, the voice replied. 0 accidents. 0 mechanical failures. 16 minor reroutes due to road construction. 1 animal avoidance incident. And how many were free? 82% of rides in East Austin Test Zone are operating at no charge under pilot program protocols. Clara closed her eyes. The data was clear. But the emotions were tangled. The next morning came with the roar of sunlight breaking through cloud cover. Austin's usual humidity returned with a vengeance, clinging to everything like a second skin. Clara arrived at the Tesla press center late, coffee in hand, eyes red but focused. The media swarm had only intensified. Overnight, news broke that 2 cybercabs in San Francisco had been involved in a fender bender with a stolen motorcycle. No injuries. Minor damage. But the headlines were loud. Autonomous fail. Tesla under fire again. The stories weren't nuanced. They never were. The reality was simple, the motorcycle had been weaving through traffic at high speed. The cybercab detected the risk and began evasive maneuvers, but the stolen bike clipped the rear bumper. The system worked. But perception wasn't about truth, it was about framing. Clara stood at the back of the media room as Tesla's head of communications attempted to control the narrative. Our safety systems functioned exactly as designed, he said. The cybercab prioritized de-escalation and pedestrian safety. While we regret any incident, it's important to contextualize these events within the 97.4% decrease in risk compared to traditional vehicles. The room buzzed with half-skeptical typing and murmured side conversations. Clara didn't bother asking a question this time. She had something more important to do. She found Jamal in one of the engineering lounges, hunched over a bank of monitors, eyes darting between frames of incident video and telemetry readouts. You saw the clip? She asked. Saw it. Ran it. Lived it, he said without looking up. It's already being pushed into the alpha net for adjustment. It wasn't the car's fault, she said. Doesn't matter, Jamal replied. Perception is more powerful than performance. Always has been. He sighed and finally turned to face her. This is what we've been bracing for. The first scrape. The first bruise. The world's watching like vultures. One mistake, and it's a referendum on everything. So what now? Clara asked. Now, Jamal said, we lean into transparency. Elon's about to greenlight something crazy. I'm not supposed to tell you. Tell me anyway. He smiled. He's going to open source the safety logic. Full stack. Or at least the part that handles risk arbitration. Clara blinked. That's unheard of. You're talking about revealing your most valuable IP. That's the point, he said. Let the world see how it thinks. Let experts test it. Let critics find the cracks. We can't sell trust, we have to earn it. And if they find something bad, she asked. Then we fix it, Jamal said. Or someone else does. Either way, we move forward. That afternoon, the announcement came. Elon posted it himself, no press release, no media filter, just a tweet: tomorrow at noon, Tesla will release the Cybercab safety stack under an open-source license. You want to see how it thinks? You'll see everything. No more black boxes. #Cybercab, the internet imploded. Analysts called it bold. Regulators called it reckless. Engineers called it brilliant. Clara just watched. She knew what was coming now. A digital autopsy of the machine mind. Everyone would have an opinion. But only a few would really understand what they were looking at. As the sun dipped low again, Clara found herself back at the community center in East Austin. This time, she wasn't alone. She'd invited a local councilwoman, a single mother who used Cybercab to get her son to daycare, and an ex-driver for a ride-hailing app who'd recently been hired as a Cybercab maintenance tech. They stood together, watching pods roll by, quietly changing lives. Clara took a breath and started filming. Not the car. Not the tech. The people. Their faces. Their stories. The real stakes. She spoke into her lens: this is what disruption looks like. Not apps. Not slogans. Not stock prices. It's the space between where we were and where we're going. It's a machine programmed to protect lives, and the people deciding whether to believe in it. She stopped recording and watched a pod roll past, the mother waving goodbye to her son through the glass as he rode safely alone. Clara smiled, but her heart was still heavy. Progress didn't erase fear. It just asked us to carry it differently. She turned to the others and asked, "What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" The mother answered first: hope. The ex-driver said, "A second chance." And the councilwoman said, "The truth." Clara nodded. She didn't have all the answers. But she knew what her next chapter would be. Clara hadn't planned on going live. That wasn't her usual approach. She preferred polished edits, layered narration, and carefully constructed sequences. But this story had changed her. It wasn't just about information anymore, it was about immediacy. So she sat in a folding chair outside a corner bodega in East Austin, the sounds of a nearby playground drifting in the background, and hit "Go Live" on her social feed. Her phone camera lit up. Notifications pinged instantly. Viewers began pouring in, some familiar, others from time zones she couldn't name. "I know most of you have been following this story," Clara began, "but today's different. Today, Tesla did something unheard of. At noon, they released the Cybercab safety stack, open source, fully public, no filters. You can see how the machine thinks. Line by line." She paused to let that sink in, watching the comments section erupt with questions, opinions, and arguments. "I want you to see something," she said, turning the camera slowly toward the street. A sleek black Cybercab pulled up to the curb and opened its doors for an elderly man with a cane. He stepped in with slow confidence, as if he'd done it 100 times. No steering wheel. No dashboard. Just trust. That man, Clara continued, has no idea how the code works. He doesn't need to. All he knows is that every time he steps inside, it gets him to his grocery store and back without fear. And today, for the first time in history, anyone who wants to understand what makes that possible can look under the hood. As she kept talking, she noticed a subtle change in herself. Her voice steadied. Her spine straightened. She wasn't just reporting anymore, she was translating a moment. "We've been asking whether we can trust machines to make life-or-death decisions," she said. "But what we should be asking is whether we can afford not to." She ended the stream there. Short. Honest. Sharp. A few minutes later, she was trending. Her inbox exploded again, this time with interview requests from global media outlets, public policy forums, and even a university AI lab offering her a visiting lectureship. But Clara wasn't interested in panels or theory. She wanted to stay close to the ground, to the people using the tech, not just the ones building it. That afternoon, she met again with Jamal in Tesla's public lab zone, where engineers had begun hosting open demo sessions with the new code. Large screens showed lines of logic unfolding in real time, complete with visual overlays that explained each decision the Cybercab made during live test rides. "We've never done this before," Jamal said, handing her a bottle of water. "Transparency at this level? It's both liberating and terrifying." "Is the system holding up?" Clara asked. "Better than expected," he said. "We've already had 5 crowdsourced bug submissions. One pointed out a subtle bias in how the vehicle interpreted jaywalking based on pedestrian posture. Turns out, our model underprioritized people who looked hesitant, usually the elderly or disabled. The public found it before we did." "That's amazing," Clara said. "It's more than amazing," Jamal replied. "It's proof that safety isn't a proprietary asset, it's a shared responsibility." He paused, watching a screen as a Cybercab navigated a tricky left turn. "You know," he added, "when I joined this project, I thought the biggest challenge would be teaching the car how to drive. But that was the easy part. The hard part is teaching it how to care." "Can it really care?" Clara asked. "Not like a person," Jamal said. "But maybe like a mirror. It reflects what we teach it to value. And if we show it enough humanity, it might make decisions we can live with." Over the next several days, the story ballooned. Other AV companies scrambled to issue statements. Some criticized Tesla's move as reckless, warning that bad actors could exploit the open code. Others praised the radical transparency and began hinting they might follow suit. Meanwhile, the public response was split. Tech enthusiasts dove into the safety stack, dissecting every line of code and posting theories on how to improve it. Skeptics raised alarms about data privacy, over-reliance on automation, and the risk of errors in edge cases, those unpredictable moments no machine can fully prepare for. Clara covered it all. She embedded with a Cybercab emergency response team for 12 hours, documented how engineers debugged live feedback from the open-source forums, and even interviewed a former NTSB investigator who had switched sides to consult for Tesla. The former investigator, a woman named Amina Reyes, had once led the inquiry into a fatal crash involving a semi-autonomous sedan. Back then, Amina told her, "We didn't have access to the system's internal logic. We had to guess what the car was thinking. With Cybercab, I can see the whole decision tree. That changes everything." "So you support this direction?" Clara asked. "I support anything that makes accountability possible," Amina said. "Autonomy without transparency is just marketing. But transparency with auditability? That's progress." Clara's coverage began shaping national dialogue. Senators quoted her reporting in committee hearings. A governor from a major state announced a pilot program to integrate Cybercab into its public transit system. But even with momentum on her side, Clara knew the backlash was coming. And it came fast. On day 5 of the code release, a known tech influencer, famous for his bombastic style and distrust of big tech, posted a viral video claiming he had found a fatal flaw in the Cybercab logic. His video was flashy and loud, filled with red arrows and exaggerated warnings. He claimed the system deprioritized the safety of low-income neighborhoods due to training bias. Tesla immediately launched an internal review. Within hours, they confirmed it wasn't a flaw, it was a misread of a safety margin index meant to balance risk in high-density zones. But the damage was done. The narrative had escaped. Hashtags trended. Protests formed. Clara was in the middle of it all, trying to balance her voice between advocate and investigator. She interviewed the influencer and grilled him on his claims. He doubled down, admitting he'd misinterpreted the data but insisting the real issue was lack of consent. These cars are driving through neighborhoods that didn't vote for them, he said. That's digital colonization. Clara let that hang in the air. It wasn't entirely wrong. But it wasn't fully right either. The deeper issue wasn't consent, it was communication. People didn't fear the technology because it was bad. They feared it because they didn't understand it. Clara pitched a new story. A long-form special titled, Inside the Mind of the Machine, which would use Tesla's open-source logic to walk viewers through a single ride in excruciating detail, every decision, every calculation, every ethical dilemma the system had to solve in real time. She convinced Elon to greenlight the idea, and Jamal to guide her through the layers of code and logic. The episode aired on a Sunday night across streaming platforms and drew millions. It wasn't flashy. It was precise. Educational. Transparent. And it worked. The public opinion needle shifted. By the end of the week, more cities requested pilot programs. Public trust in Cybercab systems rose by 18% in new surveys. Clara received a personal letter from the Secretary of Transportation thanking her for restoring nuance to a vital conversation. But she didn't feel victorious. Not yet. There were still gaps. Still risks. Still lives at stake. The technology was improving, but the human part, the empathy, the storytelling, the way communities made peace with change, that was still fragile. Late that night, she sat alone again, this time on the Tesla test loop, watching a Cybercab complete another silent run. No steering wheel. No driver. Just code. Just decisions. Just the world turning forward. And for the first time since this began, she whispered something to herself she hadn't dared to say aloud. Maybe this really is a beginning. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The morning after the special aired, Clara felt the weight of the world pressing on her shoulders like never before. Her phone was a constant buzz with messages, calls, and notifications from every corner of the country, and some from overseas. She hadn't been prepared for how deeply people were invested in the story, not just as a technological breakthrough, but as a cultural reckoning. As she sipped black coffee in a bustling Austin cafe, her mind replayed a conversation she'd had with Jamal the night before. This isn't just code, he said, it's a mirror of humanity's hopes and fears, all packed into silicon and software. She had nodded then, but now she truly understood. The Cybercab was more than a machine, it was a catalyst, a litmus test for what society was willing to accept and what it wasn't. She checked her email again and saw an invite from a national think tank hosting a forum on AI ethics, featuring leading voices from industry, government, and academia. They wanted her to moderate a panel on public trust in autonomous vehicles. Clara paused, the usual imposter syndrome creeping in. Was she really qualified? She was a journalist, not a philosopher or engineer. But then she reminded herself, she was the bridge between those worlds, the one translating complexity into stories people could grasp. She accepted. The forum was held in Washington, D.C., in a sleek auditorium filled with journalists, researchers, and policymakers. Clara stood at the podium, scanning the crowd. The panel included Dr. Evelyn Hart, a respected AI ethicist, Marcus Lee, a former Uber engineer turned autonomous tech critic, and Senator Carla Gomez, an outspoken advocate for public safety and regulation. The moderator's opening question was straightforward: how do we build trust in machines that control our safety? Dr. Hart spoke first. Trust begins with transparency, but it also requires humility. We must recognize the limits of technology and embed ethical frameworks that prioritize human dignity. Marcus Lee was more skeptical. The technology is impressive, but it's still fallible. Over-reliance on automation can dull human judgment and create complacency. Trust should be earned, not demanded. Senator Gomez added, regulation must keep pace with innovation. Public safety cannot be compromised in the race to market dominance. We need clear accountability. Clara listened carefully, then posed a question of her own. How do you see the role of open-source code in shaping this trust? The room shifted. Dr. Hart nodded approvingly. Open source democratizes knowledge. It allows communities to scrutinize, contribute to, and improve the technology. It's a vital tool for inclusion and oversight. Marcus frowned slightly. It can also expose vulnerabilities. If the wrong actors exploit the code, the consequences could be severe. Senator Gomez weighed in, it's a balancing act. Transparency must be coupled with strong cybersecurity measures and ethical guardrails. The conversation deepened, weaving through legal, philosophical, and practical terrain. Clara realized this was more than a debate about cars, it was about the very nature of agency and responsibility in a world increasingly run by algorithms. After the panel, Clara was approached by a young engineer named Leo, who introduced himself as part of a grassroots initiative developing open-source AI tools for underserved communities. Your reporting helped us get our foot in the door, he said, and showed us that the public wants to be part of this conversation. They talked about community workshops, code audits, and education programs aimed at making AI accessible and accountable. Clara felt a surge of hope. Back in Austin, she met with Jamal again, who looked tired but energized. Tesla was now coordinating with independent researchers and local governments to expand the Cybercab pilot programs into smaller cities and rural areas. The challenges were stark: less reliable GPS, spotty connectivity, and communities unfamiliar with autonomous tech. But the potential was huge, providing mobility for those who'd long been underserved by traditional transit. Clara joined a test ride in one of these new zones, a town on the edge of the Texas Hill Country. The Cybercab cruised quietly down winding roads flanked by oak trees and open fields, its sensors adjusting to the shifting landscape and occasional wildlife crossings. Her co-rider was Maria, a retired schoolteacher who relied on the Cybercab to visit her grandchildren in nearby towns. I was nervous at first, Maria admitted, but now I trust it more than some drivers I've seen. The ride was serene. Clara noted how the vehicle adapted smoothly to the slower, less predictable traffic patterns and interacted seamlessly with local traffic lights and pedestrians. It was a glimpse of what future mobility could look like beyond urban centers. Later, Maria invited Clara into her home, where the walls were lined with photographs of family and decades of memories. They talked about change, how technology often felt like a double-edged sword, promising convenience but threatening connection. Maria's wisdom resonated. No machine can replace the warmth of a human touch, but it can free us to spend more time with the people we love. Clara's story from this ride became a powerful piece about inclusion and the human dimension of innovation. As weeks passed, Tesla faced fresh scrutiny when a glitch in the voice command system caused a Cybercab to miss a critical stop, stranding a passenger in a storm. The incident sparked heated discussions online and led regulators to call for stricter real-time monitoring. Tesla responded quickly, issuing a software patch and increasing transparency around error reporting. Clara's coverage highlighted both the company's accountability and the ongoing challenges of building a flawless system. In a private moment, she spoke with Elon Musk at a public event unveiling the next-generation Cybercab model. The new version was sleeker, faster, and featured advanced AI capable of real-time ethical decision-making informed by thousands of crowdsourced inputs. Elon's energy was contagious, but Clara detected a rare note of vulnerability. People want progress, he said, but they fear losing control. My job is to build trust faster than they lose faith. Clara pressed him on the ethical responsibilities that came with such power. You're shaping the future of mobility. How do you ensure the Cybercab doesn't just serve the privileged few? Elon's gaze sharpened. We start with accessibility. Open source code is just one piece. We're investing in education, partnerships, and local empowerment. This has to be a collective journey. That night, Clara reflected on the arc of the story so far. The technology was evolving rapidly, but the social fabric needed mending. The Cybercab was not just a vehicle, it was a mirror reflecting society's hopes, fears, inequities, and dreams. She thought of the countless faces she'd met, the mother balancing work and daycare, the retired teacher, the engineers poring over code, the skeptics shouting from the sidelines. They were all part of the same story. Clara knew this was a pivotal moment, not just for Tesla or autonomous vehicles, but for how humans would coexist with machines. The question wasn't whether the future would arrive, but how it would be shaped. As she prepared to write the next chapter, she realized the true story was just beginning, a story of trust, transparency, and transformation. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For Clara, it was the belief that stories could change the world. Clara's phone buzzed again, this time with an unexpected message from Dr. Evelyn Hart, the AI ethicist she'd met at the Washington Forum. The subject line read simply, "Invitation." Inside, Evelyn proposed a private roundtable discussion among select journalists, engineers, ethicists, and community leaders to explore the social implications of fully autonomous vehicles. She wrote, "The questions Tesla's Cybercab raises go beyond technology. They challenge our values, our laws, and our very sense of control. We need diverse voices to shape this future responsibly." Clara hesitated but then replied, accepting the invitation. A week later, she found herself in a modest conference room at a university campus, surrounded by about a dozen people from vastly different backgrounds. There was Jamal, representing Tesla's engineering team, Marcus Lee, the skeptical former Uber engineer, Amina Reyes, the former NTSB investigator, Leo, the grassroots AI advocate, and a handful of local community organizers from Detroit, Phoenix, and rural Appalachia. The discussion began cautiously, with each person outlining their hopes and concerns. Jamal emphasized the technical advancements and the open-source philosophy behind Cybercab, while Marcus warned about systemic biases embedded in AI datasets. The community leaders spoke passionately about inclusion, accessibility, and the digital divide. Clara took copious notes, sensing the intensity and complexity of the conversation. The group debated issues ranging from algorithmic fairness and liability in accidents to the potential for job displacement among drivers and the ethical dilemmas of machine decision-making in unavoidable crash scenarios. Amina pushed for clearer regulatory frameworks that incorporated public input, warning that technology without governance was a recipe for disaster. Leo argued for community-led audits and training programs to empower marginalized populations. Hours passed, and the dialogue grew richer, but also more fraught. At one point, a heated exchange broke out between Marcus and a community organizer from Detroit, who accused tech companies of digital imperialism, deploying AI solutions without fully understanding the unique needs of their neighborhoods. Jamal stepped in, acknowledging past missteps and stressing Tesla's commitment to listening and adapting. Clara realized that the room itself was a microcosm of the broader societal struggle, trust being built and broken in real time. After the formal discussion ended, the group decided to form a working coalition called the Autonomous Mobility Ethics Collective, AMEC, to develop guidelines, share research, and foster ongoing community engagement. Clara was invited to document and help communicate their progress to the wider public. This marked a new chapter in her reporting, not just chronicling events but actively shaping the conversation. Returning to Austin, Clara was energized but also mindful of the challenges ahead. She scheduled interviews with experts, activists, and everyday riders to capture diverse perspectives. One afternoon, she visited a rehabilitation center where Cybercab was being tested as a mobility aid for people with disabilities. The room was filled with hope and cautious excitement. Clara met Samira, a young woman who had lost partial mobility after an accident. "Before this, I relied on rides from friends or taxis," Samira said. "With Cybercab, I get independence. I can run errands, visit my family, without worrying about availability or cost." The Cybercab's interface was adapted with voice commands and haptic feedback, designed for users with varying needs. Samira demonstrated how she could summon the vehicle with simple phrases and customize routes. Clara noted the importance of these adaptations in making the technology truly inclusive. But the story was never simple. On a cold winter morning, Clara covered a protest outside Tesla's headquarters where drivers who had lost jobs to automation demanded better transition programs and economic protections. The signs read, "Human jobs matter, automation isn't progress if it leaves us behind," and "Fair wages for a fair future." Clara interviewed David, a former ride-share driver now struggling to find work. "I get it," David said. "Tech moves fast. But people get left behind. We need solutions that don't just replace us but uplift us." This deepened Clara's understanding that the Cybercab's promise carried costs, social, economic, emotional, that couldn't be ignored. She began weaving these themes into a multi-part series titled The Human Cost of Autonomy. Tesla responded by announcing a partnership with workforce retraining programs and a $50 million fund to support displaced drivers. Clara followed the rollout closely, documenting successes and setbacks. Meanwhile, Tesla's software team was racing to enhance the Cybercab's ethics module, incorporating real-world feedback from AMEC and everyday users. Jamal invited Clara to a closed beta test of the newest software update, which included an ethical override feature designed to prioritize passenger safety in ambiguous situations while considering pedestrian welfare and property damage. During the test, Clara witnessed the Cybercab navigate a complex scenario. A cyclist swerved suddenly in front of the vehicle while a pedestrian crossed nearby. The car made a split-second decision to reduce speed and swerve gently, avoiding collision without endangering others. Jamal explained the decision-making process, showing Clara the real-time code that balanced competing ethical values. "This is where machine learning meets morality," he said. "It's imperfect, but it's learning every day." Clara's story captured this moment as emblematic of the broader societal experiment underway. The technology was not a finished product, it was a dialogue between humans and machines, evolving with each interaction. On the personal front, Clara's relationship with Jamal deepened. Their shared passion for the project and long hours together forged a bond built on mutual respect and understanding. Late-night conversations about AI ethics, community impact, and the future of transportation became their new normal. Yet Clara remained grounded by memories of her early reporting days, the raw uncertainty, the fear of the unknown, the faces of those affected. She kept returning to a question she'd posed at the start: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For her, it was the conviction that technology must serve humanity, not the other way around. As the year drew to a close, Clara prepared to deliver a keynote at a major technology conference titled The Road Ahead: Trust, Ethics, and Autonomy. Standing before an audience of thousands, she told the story of the Cybercab not just as a technical marvel, but as a symbol of collective responsibility. "The future is not a destination," she said. "It's a journey we must travel together, engineers, policymakers, communities, and storytellers. Our values must steer the wheel, even if the will no longer exists." Her words resonated deeply, sparking conversations long after the conference ended. Tesla's Cybercab was no longer just a product. It was a movement, a shared hope for a safer, fairer, and more connected world. Clara's reporting had helped shape that narrative, turning complex code into human stories. And as she looked ahead, she knew this was only the beginning of a far greater journey. One where every voice mattered, every choice counted, and every ride held the promise of a new beginning. The Cybercab was no longer just a futuristic concept or a tech demo, it had become a tangible part of everyday life for many. Clara found herself increasingly drawn to the stories of those whose lives the Cybercab was reshaping in unexpected ways. One of her most impactful interviews came from an elderly veteran named Harold Jenkins, living in a small suburban town outside Dallas. Harold had lost his driver's license due to declining vision, and the Cybercab had restored his sense of freedom. Before this, Harold said, his voice tinged with emotion, "I was a prisoner in my own home. Now, I get to see my grandchildren, go to church, even pick up groceries on my own. Clara realized that the Cybercab was doing more than reducing traffic or emissions, it was breaking down barriers of mobility, especially for seniors and people with disabilities. Yet, not all the stories she encountered were as hopeful. In a bustling neighborhood in Detroit, she met Tanya, a single mother juggling 2 jobs and reliant on public transportation. Tanya was skeptical of the Cybercab, concerned that it might eventually replace the buses she depended on. "If they take away the buses, what do people like me do?" she asked. Her question echoed a broader fear about automation disproportionately impacting vulnerable communities. Clara's reporting began to highlight this tension, technology's promise of progress versus the risk of deepening inequality. One crisp autumn morning, Clara rode along with a Cybercab pilot program coordinator named Erica, who was working in collaboration with Detroit's Public Transit Authority. They toured a neighborhood where Cybercab vehicles were supplementing bus routes during off-peak hours, aiming to fill gaps rather than replace existing services. Erica explained, "Our goal is integration, not displacement." The Cybercab can serve areas where buses are inefficient, providing safe, reliable rides for those who need it most. Clara was impressed by the delicate balance being struck but also aware of the scrutiny from local activists and unions. Meanwhile, Tesla continued pushing forward with software improvements and hardware upgrades. Elon Musk had unveiled the next iteration of the Cybercab at a high-profile event in San Francisco, introducing enhanced AI capable of emotional intelligence, sensors and algorithms designed to detect passenger mood and respond accordingly. Clara attended the launch and observed how the new Cybercab adjusted interior lighting, temperature, and even played personalized music based on real-time emotional analysis. The crowd was mesmerized. Elon spoke passionately about creating a companion vehicle that not only transported people but also understood and eased their stress. Clara's article from the event was titled, "When Machines Feel, the Next Step in Autonomous Mobility." But not everyone was convinced. Privacy advocates raised alarms about data collection and the ethics of machines interpreting human emotions. Clara interviewed Dr. Naomi Patel, a cybersecurity expert, who warned, "This technology opens Pandora's box. Emotional data is deeply personal, and without strict safeguards, it can be exploited or weaponized." Tesla responded by releasing detailed privacy policies and encryption standards, but the debate continued in media and policy circles. Clara's reporting kept pace with the unfolding conversation, emphasizing the need for transparency and public engagement. As the technology matured, Clara noticed a cultural shift. The Cybercab was beginning to influence how people thought about travel itself. Traditional ideas about ownership and driving were challenged by a future where vehicles were shared, autonomous, and integrated into broader smart city ecosystems. She met with urban planner Marcus Chong, who envisioned cybercabs as part of a network that reduced congestion and pollution while promoting walkable neighborhoods. "This is about reimagining mobility, not just making cars smarter," Marcus said. Clara's interviews revealed growing enthusiasm but also fears of rapid change. Families who had always relied on cars to commute worried about losing control, while younger generations embraced the convenience and novelty. One evening, Clara joined a community town hall in Phoenix, where residents voiced concerns about safety, data security, and equitable access. A local teacher named Sarah asked pointedly, "How do we ensure the Cybercab serves all neighborhoods, not just wealthy ones?" Tesla representatives promised ongoing collaboration, but Clara sensed the challenges ahead were as much social as technical. On a personal level, Clara's relationship with Jamal continued to grow. They found comfort in shared late-night coding sessions and debates about AI's role in society. Yet, Clara maintained professional boundaries, aware that her journalistic integrity was paramount. Still, Jamal's insider perspective enriched her stories and provided depth few other sources could match. One memorable moment came when Jamal invited Clara to the Tesla testing facility late at night. Surrounded by rows of gleaming cybercabs, they witnessed a simulation where the vehicles navigated complex urban scenarios involving unpredictable pedestrian behavior, erratic drivers, and emergency responders. Jamal explained the layers of redundancy and fail-safes embedded in the system. "We build not just for perfection, but for resilience," he said. Clara reflected on how this echoed the broader human experience, imperfect but adaptable. As the months passed, the Cybercab's deployment expanded to multiple cities and states, each with unique regulatory frameworks and cultural contexts. Clara traveled extensively to cover the rollout, from Seattle's tech-savvy neighborhoods to rural Georgia's cautious communities. Everywhere she went, she heard the same mix of excitement and apprehension. Clara's storytelling evolved to capture these diverse voices, weaving a tapestry of hope, fear, and possibility. In one striking story, she documented a partnership between Tesla and a Native American reservation, where cybercabs provided crucial transport in areas underserved by public transit. Tribal leaders saw the technology as a means of preserving sovereignty and improving quality of life. Clara was moved by the resilience and vision she encountered. Yet, challenges persisted. Incidents of software glitches, while rare, triggered regulatory reviews and public debate. Clara covered these developments with nuance, highlighting both the promise and pitfalls of emergent technology. Her articles sparked national conversations about ethics, equity, and the pace of innovation. As the cybercab became more visible on roads and in headlines, Clara noticed a subtle shift in public perception. What had once seemed like science fiction was now a lived reality. People adapted their routines, businesses planned around autonomous logistics, and cities updated infrastructure to accommodate new mobility patterns. Clara chronicled this transformation with a sense of awe and responsibility. Through it all, she never lost sight of the human element. Whether it was Harold's newfound independence, Tanya's cautious hope, or Samira's joyful empowerment, Clara's stories illuminated how technology intersected with identity, dignity, and community. She knew the road ahead would be winding and uncertain, but believed that with empathy and vigilance, society could navigate it together. Late one night in her Austin apartment, Clara penned a reflective essay titled, "The Wheel That Didn't Turn: Trust, Autonomy, and the Future of Mobility." She wrote, "The cybercab challenges us to rethink control, not just who steers the vehicle, but who shapes our collective destiny. It asks us to balance innovation with inclusion, efficiency with ethics, and progress with humanity." As she hit send on the submission, Clara felt a surge of purpose. Her journey had taken her from curiosity to conviction, from observer to participant in a story much bigger than herself. And as the sun rose over the Texas skyline, she looked forward to the chapters yet unwritten. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For Clara, it was the belief that stories, anchored in truth, empathy, and courage, could drive change and light the path forward. Clara's next assignment took her deep into the heart of Detroit, a city emblematic of America's industrial rise and fall, now grappling with a new technological revolution. The cybercab's arrival in Detroit was more than just a deployment, it was a symbol of potential rebirth and disruption. Clara met with Malik Thompson, a lifelong resident and local community organizer, who had mixed feelings about the cybercab program. Malik welcomed the promise of innovation but worried about the impact on jobs and the community's voice in shaping this new reality. "Detroit has seen a lot of broken promises," Malik said, his tone cautious but hopeful. "We want to be partners in this, not just subjects of some corporate experiment." Clara saw this tension play out vividly as she accompanied Malik to a public forum hosted by Tesla and city officials. Residents filled the auditorium, eager to voice opinions, ask tough questions, and hold the tech giant accountable. The forum was a microcosm of the national debate around automation. Excitement about cleaner air and safer roads mingled with anxiety over lost livelihoods and data privacy. Tesla representatives, including Jamal, addressed the crowd, outlining plans for job retraining programs, community investments, and transparent data policies. Malik pressed for guarantees that these promises wouldn't just be corporate lip service. Clara observed how the company's messaging evolved in real time, shaped by the community's concerns. Outside the forum, Clara caught up with Maria, a former taxi driver now enrolled in one of Tesla's retraining programs. She was learning software skills to become a cybercab operations specialist. "It's hard to start over at 45, Maria said, but this feels like a chance, not just for me, but for my kids." Clara realized that these stories of adaptation and resilience were crucial to understanding the full impact of the cybercab revolution. Over the next weeks, Clara shadowed Maria through her training, documenting the challenges and triumphs of shifting from the driver's seat to the control room. Meanwhile, Tesla's engineering team rolled out an update addressing some of the earlier software bugs that had caused minor but highly publicized glitches. The company was also piloting Cybercab hubs, centralized locations where vehicles could be maintained, charged, and dispatched efficiently. Clara visited one of these hubs on the outskirts of Detroit, a sprawling warehouse buzzing with activity. Technicians monitored screens displaying real-time data streams from hundreds of vehicles, while mechanics performed routine checks and upgrades. Jamal explained how the hubs were designed to optimize fleet management and reduce downtime. "The future isn't just about the vehicle itself," he said, "it's the ecosystem around it." Clara saw how this complex infrastructure underscored the immense coordination required to sustain fully autonomous mobility at scale. On a more personal level, Clara's bond with Jamal deepened as they shared long hours at the hub, brainstorming stories and exploring the ethical challenges embedded in their work. They debated the balance between innovation and responsibility, privacy and progress, control and trust. Their conversations often circled back to the human stories Clara was uncovering, the hopes, fears, and everyday realities of people adapting to a world shaped by AI. One evening, Clara received an urgent call from a community leader in Phoenix reporting a cybercab accident involving a pedestrian. The incident had sparked protests and calls for stricter regulations. Clara rushed to the scene, where a crowd had gathered, anger palpable in the chilly desert air. Emergency responders tended to the injured pedestrian, who had fortunately sustained non-life-threatening injuries. Clara interviewed witnesses and Tesla representatives who explained the incident was under investigation but emphasized the vehicle's safety record was strong. Still, Clara knew that every accident, no matter how minor, tested public trust and the social license for autonomous technology. She carefully balanced her coverage, presenting facts while acknowledging community concerns. The incident ignited broader conversations about transparency, accountability, and the speed at which regulators should approve new AI features. Clara participated in a televised panel alongside legal experts, ethicists, and Tesla spokespeople, exploring questions of liability and consent. The dialogue was complex, reflecting the multifaceted nature of integrating AI into public life. Meanwhile, Clara's investigative work uncovered emerging disparities in access to cybercab services. Wealthier neighborhoods enjoyed frequent, reliable rides, while lower-income areas faced longer wait times and limited availability. She interviewed city officials and Tesla managers who acknowledged the problem and pledged to improve equity through data-driven route planning and community partnerships. Clara's reporting brought national attention to this issue, sparking policy discussions on how to ensure autonomous mobility benefits all populations fairly. As public debate intensified, Clara also explored how Cybercab was transforming daily routines and relationships. She met with the Reynolds family in suburban Chicago, who embraced the Cybercab as a way to reconnect. With their teenage kids' busy schedules, the Cybercab provided safe, supervised transport to school and extracurricular activities, easing parental stress. "It's like having a family chauffeur who never complains," joked Mrs. Reynolds. Yet Clara also learned about families struggling with the loss of traditional driving milestones, teens who never learned to drive, parents concerned about over-reliance on technology, and elders who missed the ritual of the road. These nuanced stories deepened Clara's understanding of the social fabric being rewoven by autonomous mobility. Meanwhile, Tesla's technology advanced rapidly. Jamal shared with Clara an ambitious project underway, integrating Cybercab into a broader smart city platform that connected traffic management, energy grids, and emergency services. The goal was to create a seamless, responsive urban environment where vehicles communicated not only with passengers but with infrastructure and each other. Clara was invited to witness a demonstration in San Jose, where a fleet of cybercabs navigated dynamically changing routes to avoid congestion, respond to accidents, and prioritize emergency vehicles. The experience was awe-inspiring but also raised new questions about data privacy, cybersecurity, and the concentration of control in corporate hands. Clara returned with a deepened sense of responsibility to interrogate these complexities in her writing. On the home front, Clara grappled with her own sense of balance amid the fast pace of her work and the intensity of her relationship with Jamal. She cherished their moments together but remained wary of potential conflicts between personal and professional boundaries. One weekend, they escaped to the Texas Hill Country, seeking respite in nature. Surrounded by rolling hills and quiet streams, Clara found space to reflect on the journey she'd been on. From the initial curiosity about a no-steering-wheel future to the profound realization of what was at stake for society. She journaled, "This is more than a story about cars. It's a story about trust, adaptation, and what it means to be human in an age of machines." Clara's thoughts returned to the question she had posed repeatedly to her readers: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For her, it was the belief that understanding and empathy could bridge the gap between technology and humanity. As the year closed, Clara prepared for the publication of her most ambitious work yet, a feature-length documentary and accompanying written series titled Navigating the New Road: Lives Transformed by Tesla's Cybercab. The project aimed to capture the multifaceted reality of autonomous mobility, blending human stories, expert insights, and on-the-ground reporting. Tesla offered support but Clara insisted on full editorial independence, determined to tell the story with honesty and integrity. The process was grueling but fulfilling, as Clara traveled across the country, capturing interviews, footage, and data. She saw firsthand the cybercab's impact, from quiet suburbs to crowded cities, from corporate boardrooms to grassroots meetings. She witnessed moments of joy, frustration, hope, and fear, all interwoven into the complex tapestry of change. At a premiere screening in New York City, the documentary sparked intense discussion among policymakers, technologists, and the public. Clara's storytelling had succeeded in humanizing the technological revolution, reminding everyone that behind every innovation were lives, sometimes disrupted, often transformed. Standing amid the crowd, Clara felt a profound sense of accomplishment but also a renewed commitment. The story of the cybercab was far from over. It was a living, evolving narrative, one shaped by countless voices and shared choices. And as she looked toward the horizon, Clara knew that the future would demand not only smarter machines but wiser, more compassionate humans to guide them. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was hers to navigate, with courage, curiosity, and heart. Clara's journey next took her to the sprawling metropolis of Los Angeles, a city infamous for its relentless traffic jams and car-centric culture. It was here that the cybercab faced one of its biggest tests yet, proving it could thrive in a chaotic urban environment filled with unpredictable drivers, pedestrians, and sprawling freeways. On her first morning in LA, Clara met with Diego Martinez, a ride-share driver who had reluctantly transitioned to become a cybercab fleet supervisor. Diego's story was emblematic of the city's struggle to adapt. "At first, I thought these cars would kill jobs," he admitted, his brow furrowed from years behind the wheel. "But now, I'm starting to see them as tools to help us work smarter, not harder." Diego's team coordinated dozens of cybercabs that navigated the city's labyrinthine streets, using AI to anticipate traffic flow, avoid accidents, and even predict when rush hour would surge. Clara spent days shadowing Diego, riding shotgun as he monitored vehicles via remote control centers and responded to system alerts. One afternoon, Clara experienced a vivid demonstration of the cybercab's capabilities when a sudden accident closed a major freeway exit. Within seconds, the network rerouted dozens of vehicles to side streets and less congested routes, ensuring passengers reached their destinations with minimal delay. Diego explained, "This kind of real-time coordination would be impossible for human drivers alone. The AI's ability to adapt on the fly is a game changer." Yet, the system was not without its glitches. Clara witnessed a cybercab momentarily confused by an unexpected road closure, causing a brief detour that frustrated a passenger. Diego shrugged, no system's perfect. But the software learns fast, and every mistake makes it better. During her time in LA, Clara also met Jasmine Patel, a tech entrepreneur who used the cybercab to commute between meetings while managing her startup. Jasmine praised the vehicle's hands-free autonomy and personalized interior settings, which allowed her to work and relax en route. "It's like having a mobile office that anticipates my needs," she said, eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. However, Jasmine expressed concerns about the city's patchwork regulations and the slow pace of infrastructure upgrades necessary to fully support autonomous vehicles. "We're building the future, but the city's not always ready to keep up," she lamented. Clara's reporting began to emphasize these regulatory challenges, highlighting how inconsistent policies across states and municipalities created barriers to deployment and innovation. She interviewed policymakers struggling to balance public safety with technological progress, revealing a complex dance of risk assessment, lobbying, and public input. Meanwhile, Tesla continued refining the Cybercab's AI, integrating new layers of machine learning to enhance decision-making in crowded, unpredictable environments like LA. Jamal shared with Clara some of the most recent breakthroughs: improved pedestrian detection, predictive behavior modeling, and enhanced communication protocols with emergency services. He was proud but cautious. "We're pushing the boundaries every day, but we have to stay humble about what AI can and can't do," he said. Clara appreciated his honesty, which deepened her understanding of the painstaking engineering behind the scenes. Outside of work, Clara's relationship with Jamal grew stronger, providing a counterbalance to the hectic pace of her investigations. They explored LA's diverse neighborhoods, sampling street food and attending cultural events, grounding Clara in the human tapestry behind the technology. One evening, they joined a community forum in South LA where residents voiced skepticism about the cybercab. Concerns ranged from safety to affordability and fears of gentrification. A local activist named Rico challenged Tesla's representatives directly, questioning whether the company truly prioritized community needs over profit. Clara observed the exchange with interest, noting how the dialogue reflected broader societal debates about technology and justice. Tesla responded by pledging increased community engagement and programs to subsidize cybercab rides in underserved areas. Clara's reporting highlighted these initiatives while maintaining critical distance, underscoring the importance of accountability. As the weeks passed, Clara documented how the cybercab began to influence urban planning conversations. She met with Dr. Leah Kim, a professor of urban studies, who argued that autonomous vehicles could reshape cityscapes by reducing the need for parking lots and encouraging mixed-use development. "This is a chance to rethink how we design cities," Leah said, her voice passionate. "Less space for cars, more space for people." Clara was struck by the visionary nature of this thinking, tempered by the real-world challenges of implementation and equity. Not everyone shared Leah's optimism. Many worried that without deliberate policies, autonomous vehicles might exacerbate sprawl and pollution. Clara's articles captured these competing visions, illustrating the stakes involved. Meanwhile, Clara's investigation uncovered a subtle but significant cultural shift. Younger generations in LA were increasingly embracing the cybercab as a symbol of freedom and sustainability. She interviewed college students who chose not to own cars, relying instead on shared autonomous rides to navigate the city. "It's not just about convenience," one student explained. "It's a statement about what kind of future we want." This perspective fascinated Clara, highlighting the intersection of technology, identity, and values. Tesla's marketing campaigns reflected this trend, emphasizing environmental benefits and a sleek, modern lifestyle. Yet, Clara remained attentive to voices less heard, those wary of technology's reach or excluded from its benefits. As her reporting matured, Clara balanced stories of innovation with investigations into privacy concerns, labor displacement, and the digital divide. On a technical front, Tesla unveiled a new software feature, Cybercab Social Mode, allowing passengers to interact with the vehicle via conversational AI that could tell stories, answer questions, or even play games. Clara rode in a test vehicle equipped with the feature, marveling at the naturalness of the AI's voice and its ability to sense mood changes. The experience sparked questions about the evolving role of machines in human emotional life. Was the Cybercab becoming a companion as much as a conveyance? Clara explored these themes in essays and interviews, contributing to a growing discourse on AI ethics and human connection. As the year's end approached, Clara prepared for a major exposé on Cybercab's integration into LA's emergency response system. Tesla had partnered with local fire and police departments to deploy autonomous vehicles capable of rapid, coordinated responses to crises. Clara gained access to training exercises simulating natural disasters and medical emergencies. She witnessed cybercabs delivering supplies, transporting victims, and clearing evacuation routes, all without human drivers. The potential was staggering, but so were the risks. Clara's reporting emphasized the need for rigorous testing, transparent protocols, and public trust to ensure these life-saving technologies were deployed responsibly. At the documentary's Los Angeles screening, Clara's work provoked a lively debate about the balance between technology and humanity in one of America's largest and most complex cities. Audience members ranged from enthusiastic tech adopters to wary skeptics, all grappling with the promises and perils of a driverless future. Clara realized that the story she was telling was not just about machines, but about people navigating profound change. In a quiet moment after the event, Jamal and Clara stood overlooking the city lights, reflecting on how far the Cybercab had come and the road yet ahead. Jamal mused, "This is just the beginning. We're building not just vehicles, but new ways of living." Clara nodded, feeling the weight and wonder of those words. She understood now that the Cybercab was more than innovation, it was a mirror reflecting society's hopes, fears, and capacity for reinvention. The journey continued, winding through cities and hearts, steering toward a future both uncertain and full of possibility. And Clara, ever curious and determined, was ready to tell its story. Clara's next destination was Austin, Texas, a city rapidly transforming into a tech hub while fiercely guarding its unique culture and independence. She arrived during the annual South by Southwest Festival, where innovation, music, and ideas converged in a vibrant celebration. Tesla had chosen Austin as a strategic location to expand Cybercab operations, and Clara was eager to explore how this fast-growing city was embracing, or resisting, the driverless revolution. Upon arrival, Clara met with Dr. Samira Khan, a sociologist studying the social impact of autonomous vehicles in mid-sized cities. Samira emphasized that Austin's growth presented both opportunities and challenges. "We're seeing a clash of old and new," she said. Longtime residents value their community's character, while newcomers often push for modernization. Clara saw this dynamic play out in neighborhood meetings where Cybercab deployment sparked lively debates. Some residents welcomed the technology for its promise to reduce congestion and pollution, while others feared losing control over their streets and local identity. Clara attended a panel discussion featuring city officials, Tesla representatives, and community activists. The dialogue was passionate, with concerns about equity, data privacy, and the potential for surveillance weighed against excitement about technological progress. Tesla's team, led by Jamal, promised to incorporate community feedback into their rollout plans and invest in local infrastructure improvements. Clara admired Jamal's genuine engagement but sensed the tightrope he walked between corporate goals and public skepticism. Over the next weeks, Clara followed a group of Uber drivers transitioning to Cybercab fleet management. Among them was Carlos Ramirez, a charismatic driver whose livelihood depended on adapting quickly. Carlos spoke candidly about the emotional toll of changing careers but also his hope that autonomous vehicles could create new job opportunities in tech support, maintenance, and customer relations. Clara accompanied Carlos to training sessions where drivers learned to oversee vehicle fleets using sophisticated AI dashboards. She noted the camaraderie among trainees, united by shared uncertainty and determination. Meanwhile, Tesla launched a public campaign in Austin promoting Cybercab's environmental benefits. Clara visited Lady Bird Lake on a sunny afternoon, where families enjoyed outdoor activities and cyclists shared trails. The campaign emphasized reduced emissions and quieter streets, tapping into Austin's strong eco-conscious culture. Clara interviewed local environmentalists who cautiously endorsed the technology but called for transparent impact studies and safeguards against urban sprawl. At the same time, Clara uncovered subtle tensions as the city's rapid tech influx strained affordable housing and local infrastructure. She spoke with long-term residents displaced by rising rents, connecting these economic pressures to the broader narrative of technological disruption. Clara's reporting emphasized the need for policies that ensured the benefits of innovation were shared broadly, not concentrated among the wealthy. On a technical front, Tesla rolled out an update to Cybercab's AI, enhancing its ability to navigate Austin's distinctive traffic patterns, including the busy Congress Avenue Bridge and narrow neighborhood streets. Clara accompanied Jamal on test drives to evaluate the software's performance under varying conditions, from rush hour to unpredictable weather. She was impressed by the AI's adaptability but also noted Jamal's concern about maintaining rigorous safety standards amid rapid expansion. One afternoon, Clara experienced a Cybercab ride through the city's eclectic neighborhoods, from the historic 6th Street Entertainment District to the hip South Congress area. The vehicle's interior personalized lighting and soundscapes responded to the mood, creating a seamless blend of comfort and technology. Clara reflected on how the Cybercab was reshaping urban experiences, making transportation not just functional but immersive and interactive. As the festival drew to a close, Clara was invited to moderate a panel discussion titled Humanity in the Age of AI Mobility, featuring experts in ethics, urban planning, and technology. The event attracted a diverse audience eager to grapple with the promises and perils of autonomous vehicles. Clara facilitated conversations about data privacy, the future of work, and the ethical design of AI systems. She emphasized the importance of centering human values amid rapid technological change. That evening, Clara joined Jamal and other Tesla team members at a celebratory gathering. Amid laughter and music, Clara felt a profound sense of connection, not only to the people shaping the Cybercab's future but to the community navigating its arrival. Yet, she also sensed undercurrents of unease, the awareness that innovation often brought unintended consequences. Back in her hotel room, Clara reviewed her notes and footage, contemplating the complex interplay of technology, culture, and society. She wrote, "Austin embodies the paradox of progress, a city eager to embrace the future but determined to preserve its soul." Her words captured the delicate balance required to foster innovation without eroding community bonds. As Clara prepared to leave Austin, she met with Maria, a local artist who used the Cybercab to travel between studios and exhibitions. Maria described how the vehicle's design and AI integration inspired her creative work, sparking new ideas about human-machine collaboration. Clara marveled at this unexpected intersection of art and technology, a reminder that innovation transcended industries and enriched diverse aspects of life. On the flight to her next assignment, Clara reflected on the stories she had gathered, the hopes, challenges, and contradictions woven into the Cybercab's unfolding saga. She realized that the future was not a fixed destination but a dynamic process shaped by countless individual and collective choices. The Cybercab was more than a vehicle, it was a catalyst for reimagining how people connected, moved, and lived. Clara's commitment to telling these stories with nuance and empathy deepened, fueled by the belief that understanding could guide society toward a more inclusive and humane future. The road ahead remained uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But Clara knew one thing for certain: the story of the Cybercab, and the people it touched, was far from over. And she was ready to follow it wherever it led. Clara's next chapter of investigation brought her to Detroit, the historic heart of America's automotive industry, now reinventing itself amid waves of technological disruption. The city carried a legacy of manufacturing might, labor struggles, and resilience, an ideal backdrop for the Cybercab's introduction. Upon arrival, Clara was greeted by a cityscape still marked by old factories and warehouses, many repurposed for new tech ventures. She met with Marcus Ellis, a former assembly line worker turned union representative, who expressed a mixture of hope and skepticism about Tesla's driverless innovation. "Detroit built the car culture," Marcus said, his voice heavy with history. "Now we're watching those cars drive themselves. It's exciting, but it's also scary. What happens to the workers?" Marcus embodied the deep-rooted concerns about automation displacing jobs, a theme Clara had encountered in every city. Yet he was also pragmatic, participating in Tesla's workforce retraining programs and advocating for inclusive economic policies. Clara accompanied Marcus to a community meeting where workers and city officials discussed strategies for Detroit's transition to an autonomous future. The conversation was raw and honest, with fears of job loss mingling with aspirations for new opportunities in AI development and vehicle maintenance. Tesla's presence in Detroit was tangible, with a state-of-the-art Cybercab assembly plant located on the city's east side. Clara toured the facility, observing the fusion of advanced robotics and human craftsmanship. Engineers and technicians collaborated to build and test vehicles, emphasizing quality and safety. Jamal, who joined Clara for the tour, explained that the plant was designed not only to produce cars but to serve as a training ground for local talent. "We want to build skills here," he said. "Detroit has an incredible workforce, and this technology can create new kinds of jobs if we do it right." Clara was struck by the effort to blend innovation with tradition, a delicate balance necessary to win community trust. She interviewed several assembly workers who spoke proudly about their roles, describing how they had adapted to new tasks involving software diagnostics and AI calibration. For many, this transition was challenging but also invigorating, a chance to be part of the future rather than left behind. Yet Clara also uncovered tensions beneath the surface. Some workers felt the retraining was insufficient or too slow, fearing layoffs before they could fully adapt. Union leaders pressed Tesla to guarantee job security and equitable wages in this new era. Clara's reporting captured these complexities, illustrating the human dimension behind the technological headlines. In Detroit's urban core, Clara explored how cybercabs were beginning to alter daily life. She rode in a vehicle navigating through neighborhoods historically underserved by public transit. Residents welcomed the cybercab's arrival, appreciating the increased mobility and reduced dependence on personal cars. Clara interviewed community organizer Tanya Reed, who highlighted how autonomous vehicles could help bridge transportation gaps that contributed to social inequities. Tanya shared stories of seniors and disabled individuals gaining newfound independence thanks to Cybercab's accessibility features and on-demand service. These narratives revealed the profound social impact possible when technology was deployed with intentionality. Meanwhile, Clara attended a city council meeting debating regulations on autonomous vehicle operations. The discussions revolved around safety standards, data privacy, and insurance policies. Some council members pushed for strict oversight to protect consumers, while others advocated for flexible rules to encourage innovation. Clara noted the delicate balancing act policymakers faced, caught between public interests and economic competitiveness. Tesla representatives, including Jamal, presented data demonstrating the Cybercab's safety record and positive community outcomes. They emphasized transparency and willingness to collaborate, seeking to build a cooperative relationship with local government. Clara's articles highlighted these policy debates, emphasizing that successful integration of autonomous vehicles required inclusive dialogue among corporations, governments, and citizens. On a personal level, Clara reconnected with Jamal, whose dedication to the project deepened in the face of Detroit's unique challenges. Their conversations often turned philosophical, exploring the broader implications of AI on society and human identity. Jamal reflected, "We're not just building cars. We're building trust between humans and machines." Clara found these moments grounding amid the whirlwind of reporting. One evening, Clara attended a public showcase of Cybercab's emergency response capabilities. The event demonstrated how vehicles could autonomously navigate accident scenes, provide real-time data to first responders, and even assist in evacuations. The demonstration was met with awe and some apprehension, as residents grappled with the merging of AI technology and public safety. Clara spoke with Fire Chief Leonard Davis, who expressed cautious optimism. If these systems work as promised, they could save lives and free up our crews for more critical tasks. But we have to remain vigilant and ensure the tech doesn't fail when we need it most. Clara's coverage underscored the importance of rigorous testing and community engagement in deploying such high-stakes applications. Throughout her stay, Clara also explored Detroit's vibrant cultural scene, attending jazz performances and visiting art galleries that reflected the city's soul and resilience. She met Aisha, a local poet whose work celebrated Detroit's spirit of reinvention. Aisha saw the Cybercab as part of a larger narrative of transformation, one that included both loss and hope. "Change is never easy," she said. "But if we hold on to our stories and values, we can shape the future on our terms." Clara was moved by this perspective, recognizing that technology's impact was inseparable from human experience and memory. As her Detroit chapter drew to a close, Clara synthesized her observations into a nuanced portrait of a city at a crossroads. The Cybercab was both a symbol of progress and a catalyst for difficult conversations about work, identity, and community. Clara wrote, "Detroit reminds us that innovation must honor the past even as it drives us forward." On her final day, Clara joined Jamal and Marcus for a ride through the city, reflecting on the journey so far. They passed shuttered factories and gleaming new developments, a visual metaphor for transformation. Jamal spoke of Tesla's commitment to Detroit as more than a business venture, it was a partnership with a city striving to redefine itself. Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose, understanding that her story was not just about technology but about people finding meaning amid change. As she boarded her flight, Clara knew that Detroit's story was one of many threads weaving the complex tapestry of the Cybercab's future. Each city, each person, added depth and texture to the evolving narrative. Clara was ready to continue following that thread, wherever it might lead next. Clara's investigation next brought her to New York City, the sprawling urban jungle that never sleeps, where chaos and order exist in a delicate balance. If any place could test the limits of Tesla's Cybercab, it was here, amid the ceaseless honking, frantic crowds, and endless construction zones. Clara arrived in early spring, greeted by the familiar hum of subway trains and the kaleidoscope of city life. She immediately noticed the stark contrast to the other cities she had visited. In this new era. Clara's reporting captured these complexities, illustrating the human dimension behind the technological headlines. In Detroit's urban core, Clara explored how cybercabs were beginning to alter daily life. She rode in a vehicle navigating through neighborhoods historically underserved by public transit. Malik described how the vehicle's AI could learn individual preferences, creating a personalized commuting experience. Yet Malik, too, acknowledged concerns about privacy and data security. Clara's reporting captured these contrasting perspectives, highlighting how the Cybercab was both a technological marvel and a social experiment. One evening, Clara attended a community forum in Harlem where residents voiced their hopes and fears. The dialogue was passionate and deeply personal. Some feared the technology would widen existing inequalities, others saw it as a tool for empowerment and mobility. Clara noted the importance of such grassroots conversations in shaping the future of urban transportation. Tesla also collaborated with New York's Metropolitan Transportation Authority, MTA, to integrate cybercabs with public transit. Clara observed pilot programs where cybercabs served as last-mile connectors, ferrying passengers between subway stations and their final destinations. This hybrid model aimed to reduce car ownership and ease congestion. Dr. Evan Liu, an urban planner working with the MTA, told Clara, autonomous vehicles can complement public transit, but only if we design systems holistically. Clara's coverage underscored the need for coordinated planning to maximize benefits and minimize unintended consequences. On the technical front, Clara witnessed Tesla engineers addressing unique challenges posed by New York's infrastructure. The AI had to interpret complex street signage, adapt to frequent construction, and anticipate erratic pedestrian behavior. Clara joined a test ride in a cybercab equipped with cutting-edge sensors and updated algorithms designed for urban resilience. The experience was exhilarating yet sobering, a reminder of the fine line between innovation and risk. Throughout her stay, Clara deepened her understanding of New York's intricate social fabric and how technology intersected with issues of race, class, and power. She explored how autonomous vehicles could either reinforce or disrupt existing patterns of privilege and marginalization. Clara's article stressed the importance of inclusive policymaking and community engagement to ensure equitable access and benefits. On a personal note, Clara reconnected with Jamal, who had flown in to assist with the rollout. Their conversations often touched on the ethical dimensions of AI and the responsibility of technologists to anticipate societal impacts. Jamal confessed his own doubts and hopes, revealing the human behind the engineer. Their relationship provided Clara with emotional grounding amid the complexity of her work. Near the end of her New York assignment, Clara was invited to a high-profile press event where Tesla unveiled a new Cybercab feature, an AI-powered concierge capable of booking tickets, recommending local events, and even making restaurant reservations. The demonstration dazzled the audience, showcasing how AI could transform transportation into a fully integrated lifestyle experience. Clara tested the feature herself during a ride through Central Park, enjoying a seamless blend of convenience and personalization. Yet, she remained mindful of the broader questions raised by such technology, the implications for privacy, autonomy, and human connection. As Clara prepared to leave New York, she reflected on the city's lessons. The Cybercab was not just a vehicle but a mirror reflecting the city's complexity, diversity, and contradictions. It demanded constant negotiation between technology and humanity, progress and preservation. Clara's final article from New York captured this tension. In a city that never stops moving, the Cybercab offers a glimpse of the future, one where innovation and community must travel side by side. Boarding her flight, Clara felt both exhilarated and humbled. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges but also bursting with possibility. The Cybercab's journey was far from over, and neither was hers. With each city, each story, Clara was piecing together a mosaic of America's autonomous future, one ride, one conversation, one revelation at a time. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?